James Cargo Motorcycle Shipping sponsors Under the Visor.
Question. I am Ed March, and I am normally known for my first trip, which was my biggest one, which is I rode my Honda C90 from Malaysia to England. It basically started because I saw the Top Gear Vietnam special, and I thought I want to do that. And they did it on small bikes, and they seemed to have a laugh. I had a Honda C90 to ride to and from work, and at work at break time we were just chatting, and I said, I could fly my bike there, ride it through, and then fly it home. They're like, oh yeah, you could. I was like, I could fly it there, ride it through, and then ride it home. And all of them proclaimed with utmost certainty, you can't ride a C90 back from Vietnam. Why not? Well, because it's small and it just can't be done. I thought, I reckon it can, so you're on. In 2 years' time, I'll be sat on my Honda in Vietnam, pointing it towards Devon, and I'm going to ride it home and prove you guys wrong. I had to leave it in no man's land because for about 2 weeks, because as I tried to get into Vietnam, I discovered that they wouldn't let the bike in, and they stamped my visa, so I could only go forwards and the bike could only go backwards. So I left it in no man's land for 2 weeks, and so I then got a taxi into Saigon, bought another C90, rode the length of Vietnam, rode it back, went back to the same border, sold it for 100 quid. I bought it for 200 quid. So it was £100 for one-way bike hire of Vietnam, which was brilliant. And then I then was reunited with my beloved steed, and I then continued the ride home, and rode all the way back to England. Well, the reason I ended up with a quad bike engine was my second trip was with my two mates around Europe, and one of the engines decided to give up going over the Alps, and we were in Switzerland by the end of this catastrophe, and Switzerland has never sold the Honda C90. It's basically the only country in the world that's never sold them. But the Chinese, God bless them, have been copying the C90 engines for quite some time now. And we found a shop that had C90 engines in, and we bought one, slotted it in, and as I played around with the gearbox, I accidentally put it into reverse and then shot backwards as I was testing out how many gears it had. And it'll actually do about 20 mile an hour in reverse, which is terrifying. But brilliant for anyone who's watching, because they just can't understand what's happening, because you can reverse uphill. It happened entirely by accident. The original idea was that on the trip, every 3 to 4 weeks, I'd put a 10-minute video up on YouTube of the last 3 to 4 weeks, and people could just watch it. If they were entertained, then I asked for a donation to go to the Devon Air Ambulance, because I couldn't do it as a sponsored trip, because it wasn't difficult. Riding a small, cheap bike around the world is the easiest thing you can ever do, because everyone can fix it, parts are everywhere, and everybody's friendly to you, because there's nothing pretentious about a rusty C90. Nobody thinks you're trying to look cool. They just think that you've probably got something to talk about. Because I was just filming everything that happened to me, it was honest, and people seemed to get behind the idea of that. When I got back, and actually even about halfway through the trip, people were talking about, saying to me, I reckon you should do a film. You should see if you could turn it into a film. And when I got back, I was getting quite a few people asking, so I decided to do a Kickstarter thing, which was, okay, if all you guys think I should do a film, then I'll do a thing where you can pledge towards getting a copy, and if we reach the total budget for getting the film made, then it gets made, and everybody gets the film they asked for. And I mean, I'm ridiculously humbled to even be in the same ballpark as him, let alone playing the same game. Austin was my inspiration for actually filming it so that I could share it. From when I said I was going to do it to leaving, there was actually 2 years in between that, where I had to work 60-hour weeks, and I was saving up my money. And every 3 or 4 months or so, I'd be thinking, I don't know if I can do this. And I'd watch Mondo Enduro again. Me and my mates would sit down, have some beers, and that would then give me another 3, 4, 5 months of, yes, this is an awesome idea. And then I'd spend the entire time everybody telling me I was going to fail, and it was a stupid idea. And when that built up to a level, I'd watch Mondo Enduro again. So Austin is the reason that this film exists, in a way. And yeah, and Austin has tried to mentor me and has tried to tell me how to do things correctly. I try and listen, and I occasionally try to follow what he says. But yeah, so I'm really humbled to even be remotely comparable to him, and it's awesome. The worst, for me, the worst thing about travelling was that when I got back, I was essentially screwed trying to go back into normal life. And the problem is that humans are meant to basically travel, or and the only way to explain it is that the way we're supposed to work is that you're supposed to wake up in the morning when you sort of decide that you should, and you should then think about what you're going to be doing next, and there should be a thought process and a challenge, like where am I going to get lunch, what am I going to do, where am I going to sleep tonight, compared to when I'm going to wake up, or when my boss tells me where I'm going to go to work because my boss tells me, when's my lunch at lunchtime because my boss tells me what you're going to eat, the sandwiches that my missus has made because I don't have time because I get back so late. And the problem is that you start off with normal life is here, and when you go travelling it's amazing and it's right up here and this is the best thing in the world. But after 1 or 2 months you realise that actually travelling is normal, because it's actually not spectacular, it's how we're supposed to be, and it's just this nice level of enjoyment. And you realise that work is actually, well, so not work, just the 9 to 5 is actually crippling you, and it's what causes midlife crises. And I hate the phrase midlife crises because they say, oh, you know, if you had about such and such, he's having a midlife crisis. Oh, what do you mean? And they're saying, well, you know, he's basically got over halfway through his life and he's realised that he's wasted his life and he hasn't actually done anything particularly fun with it, and now he's trying everything he can in order to have some fun. That's not a crisis, that is the most sensible moment of this man's entire life. The only thing that's a crisis is that you think that's a stupid idea. And what's going to happen is in about 10, 20 years time, you're going to probably go through the same thing, and hopefully you turn it around. Or you're going to be one of the people in the old folks home who's sitting there, you know, just sort of thinking, oh, I wish I did those things. But then there's the guy in the rocking chair who's rocking himself backwards and forwards, and he's got a smirk on his face because he's sat there thinking, I've only got, you know, 6 months, 12 months left. I had a bloody good go. And that's all we can do. And that's why I do it.
James Cargo Motorcycle Shipping sponsors Under the Visor.